Welcome to this week's edition of our weekly coaching webinar. I'm really excited everybody could join us today. So today, we're really going to dive in and talk about a couple different topics that I guess I'm going to kind of lump together in one. We're going to do something I've used called the past free information theory and something else I've called the multiple uses model. And I'm going to kind of give you an idea of how you can use these to really build a 7, even 8-figure business and beyond. And then if you're hanging out near the end, I'll talk to you about how you can get these PowerPoints and additional resources that will help you with this process. So, the one thing I've realized, and I saw a statistic the other day I thought was very interesting, that 95% of what's on the internet is controlled by 5% of the people using the internet. And what that basically means, it means that about 5% of people that are on the internet are actually contributing the almost vast majority of all the content that's on there. And then when I really stood back and thought about it, I thought, those are the influencers. Those are the thought leaders. Those are the people that people follow. And a perfect example of this is Gary Vee, right? Almost everybody's familiar with Gary Vee because Gary Vee has a full-time team that follows him around and puts everything he does out there, not to mention that the guy never sleeps and is on like every radio, TV show, podcast that's even imaginable. So he's a perfect example of that. He's a thought leader. He's a serious influencer. The reason he's an influencer, the reason he's a thought leader is because he pours content into the internet, into the space. Another one is Grant Cardone. Okay, I love Grant Cardone's 10X book. It was phenomenal. I got a lot of great things from it. Read his other books, not as much of a fan of those, but I'm a fan of Grant Cardone. He's another one of these perfect examples, right? I mean, he is notorious for pouring content in the space. His social media platforms, the podcasts, the interviews, the radio, the TV shows he's on, he's everywhere. And because of that, he's a thought leader, he's an influencer. He's definitely, him and Gary Vee, one of these 5% that are pouring information into space. But the reality is, you don't have to be those kind of stars to be able to be an authority in your space, even if it's business credit and financing space, even if it is credit repair, accounting, attorney, whatever it is that you do, you can become a thought leader and an influencer in that space. And you, like me, every day see that happen, right? I see attorneys now doing it. I've got a buddy of mine that's a bankruptcy attorney, a mentor of mine that's a trust and estates attorney, another guy that we've done some business with that's a trademark attorney. And all these guys, their entire business is based on them pouring and giving out so much information and education and teaching people how trust and estates work and how bankruptcy process work and how these things work, that they become authorities, that they become the influencers in their space. Now, what's interesting about this is when you reach that level, when you're pouring information into space, when you're creating content, putting it out there, then what happens is a shift occurs. And this is why you should care. A shift occurs where you can stop selling people. You no longer need to convince anybody why they need to do business with you, because what happens is they come to you and want to work with you. They want to do business with you for a lot of different reasons that I'll kind of pour through this PowerPoint and go through. And that's the big shift, because you no longer need to stop worrying about where the next sale is going to come from, who you're going to try to convince, talk to, sell, bribe, beg to be able to enroll with you. What happens is there becomes an endless supply of prospective customers. There becomes an endless supply of leads. You don't have to sell yourself over others, because they come to you because they know you, they like you, they trust you. Rapport is built, trust is built. All the difficulties that most businesses try to do in marketing and advertising messages, and also do equally through sales pitches, you don't have to do any of that. Okay, so again, the good thing about this is that you can basically set yourself up for success where there's an endless supply of prospective customers coming to you begging to do business with you, instead of you trying to do business with them. And that's what we're going to talk about today. So hopefully this is going to be able to provide you a lot of information that will help you build a highly successful business. Because again, the people that do this, the people that follow the strategy, the people that are givers and that could give so much of this education, are the ones that reach the $1 million, the 2 million, the 5, the $10 million levels, because it's so natural for business to come to them. They don't need to buy all the business through advertising and marketing that's coming to them, and in large part the large majority of it is coming for free without an advertising cost whatsoever. Okay. And us and me, I'm a perfect example of that. I accidentally did everything I'm going to show you how to intentionally do. I didn't mean to do any of this. Free information theory, this idea came around because I owned a credit repair company. And what happened to me was that I went from owning a mortgage company where everybody came to me wanting a mortgage, already knew what a mortgage was. And then I got into credit repair, and I was surprised at how many people doubted that credit repair worked. They didn't think it worked. They didn't believe in it. They would tell us that on the phone call. So then we had to try to convince them, teach them what credit repair was, convince them it worked, convince them we were the best source. We had to do hours worth of work in a 15-minute phone call, and it proved to be impossible. So what happened was I designed an email with this attitude of I'll show you, okay, I'll teach you how this works. And I created the first email about the Fair Credit Reporting Act. And I started to teach people about what the Fair Credit Reporting Act does, what it was, the law, the rights it entitled people to, okay, how it made credit repair possible. And I started to create and spin and write all these emails that taught this process and taught how the FICO score worked and how if we removed derogatory items, then your overall percentage of paid as agreed accounts went up, and that improved this aspect of your score. And as we got you new credit, then you had limits available credit, and that improved this aspect of the score, and taught these other laws like the Fair Billing Act and how those help people get things deleted off their credit report, and just started educating people. So when we get off the phone with somebody, we could send them the series of emails to teach them about how credit repair works. Then we shifted and started sending these emails to people before they ever even enrolled with us. And then what happened was about 6 months later, I'll never forget this, I got my first phone call where somebody said, I get your emails, I have a couple questions, I answered the questions, and the next statement out of their mouth was, okay, that answers my questions, I'm ready to enroll. This was a whole shift in my mindset because for the first time ever, I was sitting there getting my armor on and getting my weapons ready. I was getting ready to go into war to explain what we did and how it worked and why credit repair worked. And all of a sudden, somebody was just ready to enroll without us doing any of that. And the reason was because we had already done all that beforehand. We'd already done all that through emails. Now, eventually it would grow. I would start doing it through webinars. We would put those webinars in different sources, as I'll show you later today. And all of a sudden, we started putting all this content in all these different places, teaching all these lessons. So when people came to us, we had to not sell anymore. They stopped asking and trying to doubt that credit repair worked. They stopped doubting that we were the best source for them. Any objection we ever had to overcome, we didn't have to. We followed a 1.5-page script for every one of those calls, and we signed up over 90% of the people that called in or came to us as leads. And it shifted the entire thing, that how I operate in business. Now fast forward to where I am with Credit Suite. We build Credit Suite the same way. We pour information into the space. I cannot tell you how many people probably weekly come up to me and say, I don't understand what you do. I don't understand why you give away so much information for free, how you can even have a business. Because what I'm about to teach you works. And if you shift to what this is, you become one of the 5% of people that's putting the majority of stuff on the internet that's out there. And then you also become this exclusive person in your own group, in your own niche, in your own industry that people want to do business with. And you don't have any more competition at that point. If you're in credit repair, you're not competing against Lexington Law because people are coming to you wanting to do business with you versus them or anybody else. If you're in this space, you're not competing with me or anybody else in this space. You've made your own niche, and people that are following you are trusting you and wanting to do business with you. So today we're going to tie together both of these, how this free information theory works, okay? And then we're going to dive into the multiple uses model. We're going to dive into how you can produce one piece of content, use it for a bunch of different purposes, what we're doing, how we're doing it. And so that way you can pour this content into the space, and then that way you can actually become that authority, become that expert without taking hours and hours and all this time to be able to do it. So that's what the goal is here by the end of what we're going to be able to go through. So let's dive in first and talk a little bit more about it. So what is this free information theory? You can see I'm not going to go through a PowerPoint. I'm just going to keep this here with my little slides to the left without even doing the slide share. We'll go through this. And here's how this works. Basically, there's 3 stages of a buying cycle. Somebody's interested, then they start researching, and then they actually make a purchase, right? And if you think about this from buying a car, you go and then you decide that you're going to buy a car. And then you know you're going to buy cars, and you kind of start to be more observant of cars down the road, and you start to look double look at dealerships as you pass by. You know you have an interest. You know the time is coming. Then you move to researching. Now you're narrowing it down. You've decided you're going to get an SUV. You've decided it's going to be a Honda or Toyota. Now you're going in and researching gas mileage. You're researching price. You're researching payments. You're going to the lot to take an actual test drive. Then you go to purchase. That's when you actually physically walk in the door to take the test drive or to actually physically make the purchase. You're ready to go. Okay, it drives my wife crazy because she wants to test drive cars in the research phase. I refuse to test drive cars until the purchase stage because I don't feel it's fair to a salesman to walk in and waste their time unless we are ready to take action. Okay, so these are the 3 stages. Now, what happens for almost anybody that runs an advertisement, unless it's a branding type advertisement, which is only something big companies do, is they're advertising and they're hoping to get a customer from that advertising. They're hoping to catch people in this 3rd purchase stage, which is a 1/3 of the entire cycle. So they're hoping everybody's competing over this. And this is why what I'm going to teach you is so valuable. You either get it and you build a 7-8 figure business or you don't. And you're with everybody else that's struggling to figure out how to. But this is exactly how to do it. What happens is everybody else is fighting over this 33% of the pie. Everybody's ignoring the 67% of the pie because the 67% aren't ready to buy yet. So nobody wants to talk to people that aren't ready to spend money. They only want to talk to the people that are ready to spend money. What free information theory basically does is it helps you get the 100% of the buying cycle. And what this does is it allows you to tap into people in the interested in researching phase. So when they get in the purchasing phase, they're already committed to you. They already go to you. So all the people that are spending the money and fighting over this purchase group are fighting over a smaller group because you already pulled part of the people out in the earlier phases, got them loyal to you, and the minute they move to a purchase phase, well, it's yours to completely screw up at that point, okay? And a perfect example of this is I follow this guy named Josh on LinkedIn, and Josh does all kinds, his name's Josh Turner, does all kinds of LinkedIn advertising. Now, what Josh does is, and yes, there will be a replay, guys. All webinars have replays, but I'll answer questions for you as soon as we're done. So what Josh Turner does is he teaches people how to use LinkedIn. He taught me all kinds of cool things. I bought his LinkedIn University. I learned all kinds of things from it, loved it. Continued to get his email. He rolled out a new product. I decided I wanted to buy it, but it wasn't the right time because we couldn't put it to use. We got to the point where it was the right time. I was ready to buy. I called in and went through a horrible experience with the sales team, and over the course of a week, they lost my business. They screwed up the sale. I called them credit card in hand, ready to buy, and they went through a series of disastrous steps that lost the sale. So you got to be careful. You got to make sure you manage your sales team to not lose the sale after you do all this work. But the point of it is that when you do this correctly, you're getting with people in the interested researching phase. Then as they are learning, they're learning from you. They're becoming loyal to you. They get to the purchase phase. They're ready to buy. Now, you could still advertise and market and get people in the purchasing phase at the same time. And that way you're capturing the entire cycle versus everybody else that's just trying to come in and get the one phase of the cycle that's the purchase. So what does this do? It builds trust and rapport. We only buy from people that we trust, period. It's the only way that we buy. Okay, we've all been burned before. We've all dealt with unscrupulous people. We've all got ripped off. We've all been exposed to scams. We're all in high alert. It goes back 76,000 generations to our hunter-gatherer mindsets that we try to avoid danger. So we don't want to do business with people that we don't know, we don't like, and we don't trust. What this does, by giving them information and education in advance, by putting stuff on your website and training them, by putting videos onto YouTube, by posting stuff on your social media that teaches people what they don't know, by hosting webinars, by sending emails, what's happening is you're educating them. And in doing so, you're doing goodwill, and goodwill builds trust and rapport. You're teaching, you're giving, you're not asking for anything in return. You show me people that give, that don't take, the people that are trying to help, people that give and don't ask for things in return, and I'll show you people that get trust and rapport. So you're building trust and rapport, which is one of the crucial aspects of a transaction well before the person's ever ready to buy. You also become the expert and authority. Okay. They don't even want to buy from anybody else because you're the expert at what you do. Okay. So if you think about this, you could probably think of a lot of products and services you've bought the same way. You bought from somebody that taught you and educated and put information out there because you know they know their stuff. You don't have to worry about them not getting the job done because you've already learned from them. You've already learned more about the topic than you ever have. So you know they can get the job done. They're the authority. They're the expert. They're the author. They're the one that you would obviously go to because they're the smartest one in the room when it comes to that product and service. And if you want the best result, you go to the best person. And that's the other thing this does. If I want to buy a home and I have a real estate agent teaching me about how appraisals work and how buying purchase or how the HUD statement works and how to get a home inspector and how to negotiate the best price, you better believe I'm going to choose that person over the person on the park bench because the person whose picture is on a park bench, I don't know if they know what they're talking about. The guy that's sending me the emails teaching me everything, I know he knows what he's talking about, and I clearly want to work with the guy that's the authority, the guy that's the expert, the guy that knows he knows what he's doing. Okay, the other thing it does is that you become somebody that they want to do business with. Again, people don't do business with you unless they know, like, and trust you. Well, giving them information is how they get to know you. And by doing so, that's how they like you. That's how we talked about that they trust you. They like you because they get to know you. They get to know your tone. They get to know how you write. They get to know the stories that you tell in the emails. They get to know your founder story about what you did to initially get started to bring you here. You're putting all this information out there for them to get to know you. Now, so many people try to do this in a sales call, but let's be honest, it's pretty difficult to build all this trust and rapport with somebody where they really like you and want to do business with you as a person on a sales call. So when you do all of this in advance, then you become somebody they want to do business with. And what happens is this shifts everything. You no longer are trying to compete and to sell them on why they need to buy from you. They want to do business with you. They want to buy from you because they like you, and it changes everything. Okay, the other thing this does is it gives them subconscious approval. Okay, so again, what happens is people go through a series of mental checks in their head of, is this person credible? Is this person legitimate? Is what they're saying make sense? Is this factual? When they can check all these things off in their mind, then subconsciously they're already committed to you. Okay. And once this happens, then again, it's yours to screw up. It's yours to mess up. At this point, they already want to do business with you. And so it's almost very difficult to fix that, to change it, to reverse it. Okay. My perfect example with Josh Turner, as I mentioned, it was hard for me. I wanted to buy his product. I had a credit card in hand, and the sales team kept screwing it up. And it was difficult for me to unravel mentally that this guy and his company were so solid to then come to the conclusion that he was awesome. He was doing all the right things, but his staff and his team had a lot of work ahead of him. And I didn't want to work with a team that was broken. So again, it took me a week's worth of time to unwind what was going on in my mind because I'd given him subconscious approval. So that's the other thing that giving out free information does. There's also the law of reciprocity. Now, this is one of the core pillars of influence. So if you've ever read Robert Cialdini's book on influence, which is one of the best-selling books ever, then this is one of the laws he talks about. And it's pretty simple. This is what happens. Whenever somebody gives you something, most people feel compelled to give something back. Okay. And I'm sure you've been there before. As a matter of fact, I'll give you an example. I have in my drawer books of stamps that I get sent from organizations, associations, and magazines that are trying to sell me aviation products, whether it be aviation memberships because I'm a pilot, or whether it be magazines. They do so and they send me a nice letter to get me to buy, and they give me these free return address stickers to put on envelopes. You've seen them before, right? I've seen them. You've seen them. They come from pet organizations. Why do they do that? They do that because they feel by giving you something you're going to use that you then feel compelled to give back by enrolling, buying, donating, whatever they want you to do. There's a million examples of this, but that is what it comes down to. When you give something, the typical person wants to give something back to you in return. And I've even had a client say this to me before. Hey, I was going to enroll with another company, but I get your emails, and what's crazy is I know what you're doing, and I still feel compelled to call you to buy because like you've given me so much. We get that a lot. You've given me so much, I want to give you something in return. And there is this, and again, there are sociopaths, psychopaths, and all kinds of personalities that don't do this, but for the most part, most people do. Most people want to genuinely give back and help you if you genuinely give back and help them. Okay, I don't know. That's why I'm weird like this. I do not like anybody to do me any kind of favors because then I feel like I feel indebted to these people because I feel compelled to give back. So this is a real law, a real pillar of influence. And what happens is by giving information, by teaching, by educating, by helping, then what happens is the people receiving it typically feel compelled to give back. Now, that means one of two things for you. One, they come back and they buy from you. Two, they don't buy. Maybe they can't afford it. Maybe whatever happens, but they become your best testimonial. They're the ones that spread your praise. They're the ones that talk highly about you. They become your best advocates out there. They leave you positive reviews. They give you goodwill in other ways other than buying. The bottom line is you can't lose. By helping, educating, teaching, genuinely putting your genuine care of helping other people above your desire to make money, people see that and they reciprocate it to you by giving back to you, whether it be reviews, by whether it being referrals, whether it be another way other than buying or just buying, they feel almost obligated to because you've given something back to them. Now, you also never truly lose a sale with free information theory as a result. Like I said with Josh's sales team screwed up the deal. I was there ready to buy, and they messed it up. They wouldn't let me buy. They told me that the offer had expired on that, even though they knew I could buy it. Then they came back and said they could get it for me only if I made one payment. But I didn't know enough about the product. I wanted to see the webinar that they used to promote the product. They refused to show me the webinar, even though I knew they had it. So they were pushing me to pay full price for a product I didn't 100% understand. I just wanted to understand it before I bought. They went through this. They moved me to 3 salespeople. They jerked me around. But what happened is Josh won't lose my business because I still get Josh's emails. And even though I have problems with his team, I respect him. So I don't unsubscribe from those emails. I continue to get the emails. So what happens is now down the road, he will roll out another product and I will buy from him. Because again, I trust him. He earned another shot because he's given me so much value, and I will give him another shot. Not on that product, but possibly on the next. And that is the case of your sales team completely screwing up the transaction, but yet he will still win my business long term because he's doing the right thing by using free information theory and giving and teaching and educating and helping. And so I will circle back around and buy again. This is the way your prospects are. When you have them in a regular email sequence that delivers value to them, then you never lose the sale. Even if your salesperson screws the whole thing up, you don't lose the sale because what happens is they continue to get free information and will typically buy again from you in the future. So what do you give them? What do you teach them? Everything you know. Okay, my best explanation of the information we give is this. We teach you what to do. We just don't teach you necessarily how to do it. So for example, whenever you hear me talk about vendor accounts, I always talk about Uline, I always talk about Quill, I always talk about Gimplers, and sometimes I talk about Granger. What's interesting is that when I do webinars, I tell everybody you need to have 5 vendor accounts, and I only ever give them 3. And whenever you see any of my webinars, I almost always talk about the same three or four, always. I don't usually give people the other peek behind the curtain. So I don't tell them about, you've got 12, 15 different vendors in the back office. I don't tell them about any of those. I don't tell them about the ones where they can get $7,500 credit lines by setting up their phone service, the SEO, the websites, all the other vendor accounts that are out there, because that's for our paying clients. I teach you enough to know how the process works, know what the process is, but not necessarily all the specifics of how it works. Okay, what happens if you don't get your DUNS number from Dun & Bradstreet? As a matter of fact, in my webinar now, now, I now have a slide that has 40 images of all the questions that people ask. Here's a question somebody doesn't know. Here's a question. And I do that because I tell people, look, you might think going through this webinar that this is easy. Here's all the other people that thought it was easy, and here's how they got stuck, and here's why they'll spend years doing what you can learn from me to do in months. So tell them everything you know. Tell them how, and when I owned a credit repair company, I taught them how credit repair works. I put together something called a credit repair kit that if you ever see me at seminars like Derek Harper's Credit Repair University that I'm speaking at this weekend, you'll have access to this. It's a 90-page guide that teaches people exactly how to fix their credit. But the problem is it teaches them too much. It teaches them all the laws. It teaches them eOscar. It teaches them OCR. It teaches them so much stuff, and they're so confused that they insist on working with me because they know I know what I'm talking about, and that they decide it's so overwhelming they don't want to do it on their own. So teach them everything you know, because in doing so, again, some will come to you and be your customer. Some will move on and become your best advocates, testimonials, but everybody will win. Okay, guys, when you look at us, we've been around for 3 years. 4th year here going in business. We've been a division of a company before that. And of that, we've had no client complaints ever, nowhere online, no other forum besides some review sites where there's a genuine issue and we go in and fix the issue, and some of those aren't even published. So the bottom line is, how do we do that? Because we give so much that it's almost hard for people to ever do something negative back to us because of the goodwill, even if our product wasn't right for them. Let's be honest, sometimes it's not right for people. Sometimes people aren't willing to take the action to get the work done. It's too much work. They think they can do it on their own. But those people don't leave and complain and give us a hard time because we teach them so much. We tell them so much of what we know. Okay. So again, you're going to want to research to get good content. We'll talk about this. You're going to want to create a sales funnel. We've already done this for you. If you're an ultimate or done for you customer, you're already using our pre-built funnel. You already have access to it. We built it for you. Or if not, you still have all the emails in your back office to build your actual sales funnel. And the beautiful thing about this is once you build a sales funnel, all you ever have to do is get people in the top. We just hired Michael Spear. He handles our social media because our social media and our groups got so much out of control that we had to have somebody come in and manage it. And this is one of the things he said: how do I maximize all these people that want to get more information from us, that want to learn, that want to buy, that want to do this? I said, it's simple. You get them to opt into an email. That's it. You get them to opt into a landing page. Everything else is done for you if you do that one thing. That's because we're 100% comfortable with our sales funnel. When people come into our funnel, all we do is push them into a webinar. We push them aggressively into a webinar for the first 3 weeks. If they don't go for it, we push them into a second webinar. If they don't go for it, we push them into the third webinar. The whole thing we do is push them into webinars. Why? Because a webinar is 90 minutes of me teaching you what business credit is, how it works, the results, the testimonials, 100, 200 pieces of social proof with approvals and testimonials and all these other things. Then we get into a pitch. So they get everything we want them to know in 90 minutes. Anybody that we want to buy goes push that way. Why not? Because it sells it for them. The same thing if you're an ultimate or done for you customer. Our funnel now sends them emails and then pushes them into a webinar or a 3-video sales process to sell the finance suite for them, again, or for you, because again, that's what works. The funnel is what actually works. So once you create a good sales funnel, and again, that takes time. We've given you a large percent of what you need, then you build off of it. You add more content, more emails, you make it better, you refine it, you fine tune it. Then all you ever have to do is get people into your funnel to give them more information. And you do that again through email sequences. Okay, so we do that through opt-in forms, which are on your website. You can go to creditsuite.com, find any kind of opt-in form. They opt in, they get a free booking guide, which teaches them education and resources. You could do it through kits, courses, guides, checklists. You can do it through automated webinars or live webinars. You could deliver this content through videos. You could deliver it through social media on your website through newsletters. You could do it through other forms of automation. And again, what we're going to talk about really close here is the MUM model as well. And you can even use this same thing for client maintenance. So this is something else that we did very well in credit repair. What happened was that we came in, actually, I'll give you two examples of this. In credit repair, we realized a lot of our time and expense went to customer service to answer people's questions. Then what we realized was, why don't we use free information theory for our clients? We started listening to the questions. We documented every question. We found out when they asked it. For example, 2 to 3 weeks in, everybody would say, where are my results? So we would send an email 2 weeks in and say, your results take time, expect them to come within the first 45 days. Here's a picture of what the letters will look like in the mail. Then people stopped calling us to ask when they got the results. They already knew. When they got the first results, everybody would ask, why doesn't my credit score go up? Well, your credit score doesn't go up because you don't have positive credit. 30 days into the process, we would send them an email and tell them your credit score is not going to go up even with deletions until you get new credit. Here's how to get new credit. And guess what? People stopped calling asking why the credit scores didn't go up. So use this for client maintenance as well. Answer the questions that you customers have before they ask them, and then your customer service is greatly eased because these people are getting answers before they're even asked, and it improves their customer experience as well. Same problem here at Credit Suite. We had this huge drop off of people that would enroll, and then month or 2 or 3 they would quit. And what we discovered was that we kept delivering them all this valuable content. Then when they enrolled, we stopped delivering. We shut off all of our sequences because they were a client, and our clients didn't like that. Our partners didn't like that. So then we came in and created what are called retention sequences. You get them, our other customers get them as well. These are designed to just keep you engaged in the process, to give you testimonials in advance through direct mail, through email, through text if you're enrolled or subscribed to our text list. Okay, so we're teaching you all these tips. We used to have something called text training tips. We still do for our prospects. Now we have something that are text training tips for our clients after they enroll. We have another year's worth of them. So when you enroll, we don't just stop sending you tips. Now we send you tips that you need to know as a client. Hey, the process takes time. Be patient. Hey, step 1 sucks. Nobody wants to set up their business credibly. Here's why you need to. Here's somebody that got denied a loan. Now she's approved because she got this step done. Here's another story of somebody that failed, did step 1 and succeeded. So now we're coming in and the messaging changes to all about our process and why you should stay a client and the results you get. And it changes to this maintenance sequence. So you can still use this free information theory even after they're enrolled. So it really is a perfect long-term solution. Everybody messes this up. Not everybody. 95% of people do. The 5% of people that own the internet don't, because we get this. We understand that giving out information, giving out value in advance, giving out content, teaching, educating, helping is what will build a long-term loyal following for you. Just trying to ever build a business and sell something, it's not enough. It will not work, because the problem is if you build a business and sell stuff, you have no shot against the people out there that are using this strategy. You don't have a shot. They're going to go with the people that teach, help, educate them first over you again and again and again. Okay. And I can tell you, my friends, Damon DeCrenza up in New Jersey, my buddy Rondi Lambeth out in California. Okay. My buddy Jose up in New Jersey. These guys own 7, 8, even 7 and 8 figure credit repair businesses, million to 10 million, one of them 12 million a year in credit repair. These were my friends from the beginning. We were in a mastermind together. We all strategized together. We worked together to grow each other's businesses. And I can tell you 100% of them all use the same strategy in an industry where very few people get to $1 million plus. And I've seen it work, and I've seen it work in every industry, including the one that we're in, right? We got into business credit. We weren't the first one here, but I'll tell you, there's basically nobody left, because they were trying to keep everything behind the curtain. And when we came out and opened the curtain and told everybody how the system worked, then they had no shot. They had no chance at all, because they're still trying to keep things revealed, and people still want information, and they're going online and finding you and finding my information. And then in doing so, they're becoming our clients and not theirs. And one by one, those company closes their doors. So again, if you really want to build a 7, 8 figure business, here's how you do it. This is how you do it. It's teaching, it's educating, it's helping, it's giving value in advance. And this was explained by Ryan Deiss at Digital Marketer, one of the guys that I follow on the marketing side. One of the best ways I've seen it explained. It's like a bank account. You can't make a withdrawal and ask somebody to buy when you have no funds in the account. The first thing you have to do is make deposits. You have to do goodwill. You have to teach. You have to educate. You have to help. You have to provide value. And then that's putting deposits in your bank account. Then you can ask to make a withdrawal, which is ask somebody to buy. And that's why this solution works so well. So how do you do it? Well, you do it using something I call MUM, the multiple use model, okay? Because here's the reality. The reality is we're not Gary Vee. We can't have professional video crews that follow us around and film everything we do and spin it off into smaller videos and then spread those videos across every channel that's out there. We can't do, most of us can't afford to do that, right? Others of us may not have a desire to do that. So how do you do this? How does the solopreneur do this? How does somebody that doesn't have a lot of money or a large organization do the same things that people like Grant Cardone and Gary Vee who have the money and resources? How can we compete in that same world that these guys are? Well, first of all, you're not competing against Grant Cardone and Gary Vee, right? Nobody's selling what they're selling here. So you're in your own world. If you look at your own world in space, the percentage of people that are actually doing what I just told you is so small that you already have little competition. But it takes one thing and one thing only to do it: content. So what is content? Content is information. Content is the information that you use to educate, to teach, to help. It's teaching people. It's the value. It's your knowledge. It's the lessons that you put out there. And then the more content you have, the more channels you can distribute the content from. So what we've got to do is find a way for you to mass produce content. And then we need a way to mass distribute this content across all channels without your entire life being just producing content, because then you can't run your business. So multiple use model basically started with webinars, okay? And I'll tell you exactly how I've done it and exactly how this process works. So first thing, it starts with producing a webinar. Now, the good thing for you is you already have a jump start here. In your back office, you have like 15, 20 PowerPoints. If you're executive, you probably have another 20 to 30 more. So you easily have 40, 50, if not more PowerPoints in your back office. Some of you even have our older versions because we rotate content out and have 100 different webinars. We've already done the legwork for you to put together the PowerPoint. But if not, and I still think even with our content, you should do the same, dedicate an hour to be able to do research. Now, you could do this once a month, once a week, once every 2 weeks. I started doing it a webinar every 2 weeks, and which required me to do 2 hours worth of research a month. Let's be honest, you have 2 hours a month to do this. So if you spend an hour, I would do the research, and my research would basically consist of, okay, I want to come in and I want to do a lesson on Dun & Bradstreet's business credit score. Dun & Bradstreet business credit scores. And this is how it starts. I'm just basically Googling. And again, I will show you later how I did videos of a actual webinar, and I walk you through every stage of this. I have videos for every stage of the process that shows you me doing an actual webinar, and I map out how I did every single stage so you can see it. This is how it starts. Business credit scores. And I come in and I'm looking at NAV and I'm looking at D&B, and I start looking for all the information that I can get on the credit scores. Here we go. Manage my business credit. Okay, let me see if I want to learn more. See if there's any information here. Credit Signal. No, it doesn't really talk about their scores much. Okay, so I'm going to keep going in. I'm going to keep looking. And this is exactly what it really comes down to. It just comes down to actually understanding how to do research. I'm coming in and I'm figuring out anything I can. Now, what will happen is eventually I will run into a gold mine. Eventually, I will run into a bunch of really good information on that topic. So here's a great one from NAV. What's the Paydex score? 1 to 100, what it is, how's it calculated, gives you a rundown of the actual score, how's my Paydex used. This one article could be everything you need about the actual Paydex score. So it really comes down to coming in and doing research and finding everything you can find on this topic. So now I figured out Dun & Bradstreet, and now what I want to do is just take all this out and say Paydex score. So now I know one of their scores, And now I'm going to come in, skip the ads, and I'm actually going to go to the Paydex score. Now, what I like to do is I like to go right to the source. I know Dun & Bradstreet's the source, so I'm going to go down. Has your Paydex score increased or decreased? How's calculating a Paydex score? All the above, data. Guys, I run into gold mines with this. I run into PDFs that they have that you download that nobody else ever sees. They don't look deep enough. So when you come in here, now I have everything I need on that actual Paydex score at Wikipedia. So I'm doing all this research. Now I probably have a webinar on business credit scores and a whole separate webinar on Paydex score just from this. So it comes down to researching. And then it comes down to putting every one of these points on an actual PowerPoint. So for example, the Paydex score, okay, I'm going to put this as the first slide. Quotation: the D&B Paydex score is Dun & Bradstreet's unique dollar weighted indicator how firm pays its bill over the last year. I'm going to quote D&B, and I already told them what business credit, what it actually is. So what the Paydex score is, okay? Now I can come in and say, oh, Paydex score, breaking down. Here's one from Fundera. And then I can come in and say, okay, what is the Paydex score? Why does the Paydex score matter? Here's some information, okay? It's good business practice. The Paydex score is often referenced by lenders and potential partners. So you can see by piecing together the information, I'm able to put together a PowerPoint slide. Now, I don't put any graphics with this, and you may choose to do this different. This is just how I've always done it. So I basically am putting together a PowerPoint with nothing other on it, nothing else on it, versus the actual content itself. And let me see if I have one of these PowerPoints without all of the graphics on it. And let me see, I don't know if this is it. So this is what mine basically looks like. It's just all this information. Crowdfunding is, so I always start with what it is, okay, uses, why you'd use it, benefits of it. Okay, here's some history to fill some space. Here's the biggest campaigns. So I'm just, all this comes from research online. And again, I even add references sometimes. Some of this is copied and pasted directly from stuff I'm finding online. What I'm basically doing here is I'm basically just coming in and getting all this information that people could get themselves through all these different places, and I'm pulling it together to one 30, 60-minute presentation on the topic so I easily can get everything I need from this. Okay, so that first stage really becomes the research stage. That really first stage really becomes how I put together a basic PowerPoint. Again, if you're hanging out to the end, I'll show you a link where you can download the actual webinar. Once I have a webinar, now I make it 50 slides. 50 slides to me is 60 minutes. Let me give you a tip. You don't need to do that. Nowadays, we're now shifting to 30-minute webinars because that's what we find people like. So we're now shifting to 25 slides, which is much easier than it ever was for me back in the day. And even beyond that now we're shifting to 5-slide PowerPoints. And here's why. Because if you look at YouTube, YouTube has made a brilliant change that you are absolutely going to love. Okay, YouTube, the second most popular search engine in the world, don't worry. Next week, I'm going to teach you all about YouTube. YouTube has changed things where now they're looking for fresh content over seasoned sources. So we can't dominate like we used to be able to dominate, because what happens now is they're looking for fresh information. They're looking for new information. They want the people that are posting the most recent stuff. We'll talk about all this stuff next week when we talk about that, okay? But the bottom line is, when we come in here, what we're doing now is these short videos. They're 3, 4, 5 slides, and they're done, for example, let me see if I can find the reviews. Okay, Can Capital Review. So if we look at this video is a 4-minute video. This video has the title slide, my slide. It has one other slide here. It then switches to 2 slides here, 3 slides here, 4 slides, 5 slides, and we are done. There's 5 slides of content. Very super short, very simple, 4-minute videos. I still get my placement. I still put content and interesting information out there. And then I'm also putting it out on places like YouTube, okay? And again, we'll talk tomorrow about, or next week, about why we do this, but you can see these, I do different types of webinars. very short 5-minute presentation videos like this. I do webinars that are 30 minutes, 25 slides, webinars that are 60 minutes or hour-long slides. I start with these. Now I record the webinar. I do it on GoToWebinar. I record the webinar. Now that one webinar automatically becomes an automated webinar. You can use GoToWebinar for this. You could use Evergreen. You could use you could use Webinar Jams, automated webinar, although I can't think about the name of it. That's even who we use. So now you take the video recording and it automatically becomes a webinar. You take the description for the webinar, you take everything you had, which by the way, I'm going to give you a folder that gives you the description of the webinar and how to write it all up and all those type of things, which when I do the webinar, all my description is a summary of the webinar. So I go through my points like this, my slides, and I'm basically saying, hey, crowdfunding decoded. During this webinar, we're going to discuss, here's the bullets, what crowdfunding is. Okay, that's good. One, benefits, like bunch of them. I'm going to count them up. 12 benefits of crowdfunding that you should know about. The biggest crowdfunding campaigns that ever existed and why they succeeded. I'm just basically coming in and looking at my slides, and basically about 1 to every 3 slide, I'm figuring out a line item, a bullet of what I'm going to cover with those slides, and that's how I basically put together the whole description. Now that description becomes my automated webinar. I take the exact description I used to host the webinar, I copy and paste it into any automated webinar service, I upload my recorded video, now I have an automated webinar. Now I can play that webinar indefinitely. If you get our emails as a prospect, you will still see the webinar I did years ago on crowdfunding. You know why? It's the gift that keeps on giving. The information doesn't expire. Crowdfunding still is today what it was 5 years ago. It still works the same. The biggest campaigns are still the biggest campaigns. So the information is still relevant. So I can still play it as an automated webinar for years to come. And then I put that and add that into my email sequence. Now we have so many webinars in there, automated webinars, we can't even add anymore. Okay, so add it. Now it becomes an automated webinar. Plus that becomes an automated webinar you can promote on social media, Facebook, all these other Twitter. You can now promote this as an actual automated webinar. So all you need is basically an Excel log of a link of all the automated webinar registration links you have, and you can promote those easily on social media. Automated webinars with voiceover, okay? These basically become videos. So what we do is we take a webinar. Once the webinar is done, we take the PowerPoint slide and we make it into a simple Word document. And the Word document basically has, and let me see if I can come in and figure this out. I don't know if I have that or not, but basically what we do, and I don't have that here, but I will provide some of that. So what we do is then we take every single item here from the actual PowerPoint, and then what we're basically doing is we basically make every slide of the PowerPoint a page. So let's say this is all the first page of the PowerPoint. This basically, we look at it, would this sound right for somebody to read? And then we basically put every slide on a page. This is slide 1. This is slide 2. Doesn't really look like this. This is normally what it looks like this. There's about 3 bullets per slide. So what it looks like for a voiceover is we take every slide. This becomes page 1, which was the first slide. This is page 2 of the document. And basically what I'm going to do is just take, this is only on so the page 1 of the document's the first slide. Page 2 of the document's the second slide. So basically we have 50 pages, right? Every slide is the content. We just copy and paste it. We fine tune it to make sure it sounds good for voiceover. Then we send it to a voiceover person. Fiverr, Upwork. We have the same people that we do voiceovers. You can use different ones. You can use the same. We basically send this to a voiceover person. They record the voiceover. Then what we do is we then take that voiceover and we basically put it with this. So basically we have a virtual assistant from the Philippines, $2, $3 an hour, very cheap to get them. And we basically have them play the PowerPoint and record a video while they're showing the slides. Crowdfunding decoded. Crowdfunding is the collection of finance from backers. The crowd. All it is the voiceover is reading this right here. Okay. So now what happens is now we have a video. We have a second video. So we actually have a voiceover. We attached it. So the voiceover's playing. while the VA is recording the video and going through the slides. And now what happens is we now have an automated webinar, and we also basically have a video. So now we're going to double hit YouTube. We hit YouTube with the original webinar. Now we have a shorter version of it, because if you take out all this extra content that's not on the slide, the videos are usually only 10-15 minutes long. So now we have a shorter video. So we've got the full-length video, the webinar. Then we've got that full-length video with the actual voiceover. Then we have multiple shorter videos. For example, I just talked to you about doing a webinar on business credit scores. Well, how many business credit scores are there? A lot. There's like a lot. So let's talk about 15 to 17 main scores. Every one of those can be separated to a smaller video. So if I was doing a webinar on 5 business credit scores of Dun & Bradstreet you should know about, which I have done, then I would separate those to 5 smaller videos. One is on the PAYDEX score. One is on D&B's rating. One is on the financial stress score. One video on every single score. So this one webinar has become an automated webinar, has become a video with the voiceover. Now I'm breaking it down into these shorter videos. So think about this. YouTube wants the freshest, newest content that's out there. And so far, I've got the webinar, I've got the actual video from the voiceover, and then I've got that separated into 5 smaller videos. So I just got 7 videos to put on YouTube, not all at once, but I got 7 videos to put on YouTube from one single webinar. Okay, so these are these multiple shorter videos with the actual voiceover. Now, don't get me wrong. You could take your original webinar and splice it into shorter videos as well. Now we're talking about even more. So now I have the 5 business credit scores you should know about with Dun & Bradstreet. I took my main webinar, broke it up into shorter videos. Anybody on Fiverr can help you do this if you don't know how to video edit. I don't choose to. I use Fiverr. Okay, so now I took my webinar, made it into an automated webinar, made it into a professional voiceover. Then I also took my webinar, spliced out the 5 different credit scores, made that into 5 videos. Then I made I took the voiceover video and made it into shorter videos as well. Because remember, when I'm doing an actual PowerPoint, I'm talking about extra content. I'm not just reading the PowerPoint. The voiceover, she's just reading the content, right? So her video of what the PAYDEX score is going to be much shorter than mine. Her video of what the PAYDEX score might be 1.5 minutes. Mine might be 5 minutes. So the two are completely separate. So then you're coming in and you're also maybe making multiple shorter videos for marketing and sales too, okay? Which again, that's probably not something that you really want to worry about. You probably just want to worry about these multiple shorter videos. Okay, you can make testimonials out of this if that makes sense, or you can use these for testimonials. You can use them for all different types of things. So basically, now that you've done this, you've come in, you've created all these videos. Now we get to the PowerPoint and we start using that to create content. So what I actually showed you was several things. I took the PowerPoint content now, and you're going to get the same folder I'm showing you. And then I basically take all of the content from the webinar and I make it into one big article, huge article. This is the entire crowdfunding webinar made into an article. Let me see how many pages this thing is. The sucker is 8 pages, long article. Now I could do a couple things here. One, I could keep this as one article, i.e. a blog post. Or I could make this into smaller articles. I usually like it to leave it as one. Now I can put this on ezine articles. I can get an article spinner. There's all kinds of article spinners. This is what we do. We spin the article and make it into different ones, and then we auto distribute it to article posting directories. Not the best tactic. Google doesn't like it, so we don't do it a lot. But I will tell you, there's all kinds of article directories you could post this. Plus, it could also become a blog post, okay? Oh, here we go. Here's that one I told you about that gets sent over to the voiceover girl. This is exactly what it looks like. And I'm going to give you examples of this. So you're going to have everything I'm showing you here. Okay, crowdfunding decoded. This is the first slide. Here's the second slide. Here's the and so on. So you can see all we did was copy the content from the slide and put it into a Word document for the voiceover. And then we have the article. Then we take that article and we break it up into smaller emails. So here's smaller emails. Crowdfunding. Here's what it is. Here's the history of crowdfunding. Here's an email on the type of crowdfunding that you should know about, the types of crowdfunding. Here's different crowdfunding platforms. So you can see that one PowerPoint has now become for emails as well. And almost all PowerPoints can become somewhere between 5 and 8 different emails, okay? Then we also come in and we put them and break them down even further into smaller social media posts. We still use these today. Crowdfunding is a collection of financing. This is just 2-3 sentences. And these are social media posts that we post on our social media channel. Let's see how many there is from that crowdfunding webinar. There's 22 social media posts just from that one webinar. Now, we could make these longer posts or shorter posts, but you see what we're doing. So what we're basically doing now is we're coming in and we basically took that PowerPoint, we made it into email content. We made it into content for social media. We made it into articles we post in article directories and blog posts. We could take that and make that into press releases possibly as well, depending on the topic, okay? Resource for affiliate programs. We use this for you as partners. The content you get's the same content that we use, okay? So you could create affiliate type programs and have affiliates under you that you make the content for. Resources for coaching programs. You could create your own coaching program and you could provide that as assets. You could give it away as gifts and incentive that you're going to give away 5 free guides that teach you everything about credit you need to know about. Resources for future unknown uses. You don't know, right? I mean, so when we created our content, we never created it for partners to use. Then we thought, well, wait, our partners could use this. Let's make it for partners as well. So again, there's a lot of uses. So when we look at this whole thing in general, what we've done, we came in, we did a webinar, we made it into an automated webinar. Then we also came in and we could take that webinar, we could add the voiceover to it to make a full-length video, okay? And again, the webinar becomes a video, right? The webinar is an automated webinar when we plug it into automated webinar software. It's a full-length video when we put it on YouTube. Then we had a voiceover done, and now we have a full-length video with voiceover. Then we have multiple shorter videos. We did one on 5 Dun & Bradstreet credit scores. I got 5 shorter videos from the main webinar out of that. Then I also took the voiceover video, made it into 5. So now I'm at 10 videos, the voiceover video 11, the main webinar, I got 12 videos out of 1. Okay, and then I'm also coming in and I'm able to use that PowerPoint for content to create emails, to create social media content, to create articles, blog posts, press releases, some content, resources for affiliate programs, resources for coaching programs. I'm using it to give it away. I'm creating free ebooks and free guides. I'm also coming in and I'm now also using it for a podcast. That's the newest thing I've started doing. So now we take all the webinar, we make it into an MP4. We created our podcast this way. And our podcast has over 100,000 downloads. It's the exact same content that we use for our webinars. So this is how you tie these together. We started with teaching exactly why this works, why giving free information in the space works. And if you really think about this, if you really think about this free information theory model, you'll really look at the biggest influencers in the space and realize this is what they do, right? Even my kids have them. The biggest influencers that my kids watch on YouTube are the people that put all kinds of information or content in the space. My kids watch different content than I do, obviously. They watch people playing hide and go seek and like tag and like Hello Neighbor and all these crazy games. Then we end up playing them at home. But they have influencers that give content in the space. Those are the people that have the following. Those are the people that my kids watch. Those are the people that, again, are the ones that dominate the internet. And that's why when you come in and you use this free information theory, you're building rapport, you're becoming an authority, right? You're becoming somebody people want to do business with. You're creating this subconscious link. They're making them feel like they want to give back to you, okay? You don't lose the sale because you're continuing to follow up with them by teaching them everything that you know, okay? You're creating a great sales funnel that will convert these people. And then when you do so, you're able to come in and use it for all of these different purposes. And when we really look at this, all we really did was about 2 to 3 hours worth of work. In this case, we did a 60-minute webinar, which took an hour to produce the content and an hour to host it. I could have made it into a 30-minute webinar, and I could have done 30 minutes to create the content and 30 minutes to host it. If I were you, you could start that way. Then we actually took the content and distributed it through these other places. We made the article, we did these things. I have virtual assistants do one virtual assistant do every other thing I told you. They take the webinar, they upload it to an automated webinar software. They break it down into an article format. They then break that down into emails. They break that down into social media posts. After a month of training a VA to do this, they do it spot on every time. That VA takes it and gets it uploaded and creates our podcast using the same description we did for the webinar. They take the automated webinar and put it in our email sequence. They run the email content by me. Then we go ahead and drop that into our email sequence. They post the post on social media. So with the help of one virtual assistant at $3 or $4 an hour, so if somebody's working for you, you're doing one of these 2 weeks, that's only maybe 5 hours worth of work. So $4 an hour, let's be generous and pay them well. They basically cost you $20 to take that one webinar and make it into everything I've shown you here. Plus, you have the cost of a professional voiceover if you decide to use a professional voiceover, and that could be more money, right? It could be, depends on how much the voiceover is that you choose. But anyway, you want to cut it, maybe $50, maybe $100 total spend. You got how much content out of this? You got the webinar. You got the automated webinar, that's 2. You got the linked video with the voiceover, that's 3. We got shorter videos. Using Dun & Bradstreet just as an example, because there's 5 scores, there's 5 videos. So now we're at 8. Then we took the voiceover video, made it into shorter videos. Now we're at 13 different pieces of content. Okay, now we've come in and made it into emails. We made it into 4 emails. So now we're at 17. Social media, we had 22 different social media posts. So we're now at 39. We have articles we could easily distribute through at least 5 email directories here. Okay, then we come in and we've got, that puts us at 44. A blog post is 45. Okay, not to mention a different purpose. So we've got almost 50 different purposes or 50 different pieces of content from one webinar. And that's how you do it. That's how you put information in the space to become the authority and the expert by only doing one webinar, again, at a time. And if you're like, what, learn from my mistake, do 30 minutes. Don't even do 60 minutes. Do 25 slides. Then your total time commitment is 1 hour to do it. Okay, and your spend is, like I said, easily less than $100 depending on the price of the voiceover. Definitely less than $50 if you're not taking the voiceover into account. So definitely very little money, very little spend to produce 50 pieces of content you could use on Facebook, you can use on YouTube, you can use on Vimeo. You can use in places like Udemy, where you can have your own courses as we do. You can use on Instagram, Twitter. You can use it on Snapchat. You can use this content in any social media platform. You can create your own podcast. You can do all the things with the content that we do. We release a blog post every day because we can. Now we have the content to release a blog post every day that gives us SEO, that helps make it where people can find us, and we bring all kinds of organic Google traffic in as well. And then you become the authority, you become the expert, you're building a 7-figure business, and this costs very little money to do. There's no advertising spend, there's no marketing spend. So next week, we're going to dive into YouTube. I wanted to do this first because I want to teach you how to produce the content first. Then next week, I'm going to teach you how to dominate YouTube. Why should you care? YouTube is the #2 search engine in the world behind Google, and nobody's messing with it. People are not messing with it. You could try right now, and within 90 days, get into first position on Google with almost any type of video or topic you want to cover. I needed to cover this first, and next week, we're going to dive in, and we're going to talk about that. So let me answer any questions you guys have. Okay, so replays. Every webinar we do is recorded. Every webinar is available in your live training webinar section of your back office, all these weekly webinars. And this usually takes 24 to 48 hours to pull up. And that then shows up on your homepage. I told you I'd tell you where to get all these resources. Go to creditsuite.com/resources. creditsuite.com/resources. Look at today's date. There's a download button. You download the button, you get my presentations, you get it. You have to give it a few minutes to download because I decided to give you everything. I was actually going to make these paid courses, multiple, the MUM model and the fit, and I decided not to. I wanted to give them to you. So one of them has a video of me walking through every stage of the process. It has a video of me doing the research and literally creating the PowerPoint, of me doing every step of what I do after the webinar is done to have all the multiple forms of content created. It's videos that walk through every stage to give you more in-depth information. creditsuite.com/resources. Today's date's 5/15/2018. Look for that date, click download, give it a few minutes because there's videos that it's going to need to download, the PowerPoints, the actual resources that we converted the webinar and made it into, videos that show every stage of the process. That's all there as well, so you can grab that. Do you have a template that shows the VA how to repurpose the content that you can share? I don't have a template, but again, in that downloadable folder, I give you a video of exactly how I teach the VA to do this. So the video actually teaches you exactly what I do with the VA to do every aspect. And keep in mind that it's different for every source. So I think that's a great question, Jennifer. So here's what I do. I never started with this elaborate process. I figured these things out as I went. The first thing I did was take a webinar and put it on YouTube, and it's all I ever did with it. Then I started to discover that we started to get thousands of followers on YouTube, and I thought, well, holy crap, that worked. What else can we do with this? And then I started to get more and more ideas. You may do the same thing. You may just want to take the webinar and put it on YouTube, which is simple. Then you may want to look into automated webinars. My best advice to you for VAs is figure out how to do the process. Use a service like Screencast-O-Matic or anything that records your screen. I use Screencast-O-Matic. They're super cheap and it's awesome. I've used them for years. And then record your screen and show them what you're doing. You do the process and record it one time, and that one recording of you doing the process will teach your VA exactly how to do any part of this process. But yes, I do have a video that will teach you that. You mentioned text system, but audio fell out. Please repeat about the text SMS solution as possible direct information source. Well, if you're, we're building this for our partners as well, an SMS retention campaign. We have something we have called text training tips. And text training tips is we deliver a 2 to 5 minute video by text to anybody that opts in for our prospect for our text training tips. And we do this for the course of a year. For 1 year, you get a text training tip. Then we design that for our actual customers and partners, where anybody who's enrolled to get our text training tips or subscribed then gets tips about retention. Little videos that show examples of the finance suite and what you're doing in every step along the way and things you need to know and all kinds of training that we want our clients and partners to know that we don't necessarily want prospects to know. And again, if you are an Ultimate customer, or if you've got the done for you and got our campaigns product at creditsuite.com/campaigns, we don't have those built yet, but we are building those. I think it's going to be done possibly by the end of the month, where you have all those text training tips built already in your campaign for you in Active Campaign. And then we also have one for retention as well, where then those can be used for after they enroll. And those I think will be done by the end of May is the quote I'm getting right now. Awesome. Thank you, Ty. You're awesome. Thank you. I appreciate that. You rock. Thank you. What are the resources? I see the replays. If you go to creditsuite.com/resources, creditsuite.com/resources is only links to download resources that we cover in these webinars. So if you go to creditsuite.com, resources like you're seeing me do right now, and then you scroll down to today's date, which is 5/15/2018, and click download, that will download my PowerPoints, the actual documents where I converted the crowdfunding webinar, and so you can see what the final product looks like. It also will give you actual videos, so it takes some time to download because there's videos in there that will teach you every stage of the process. What I did was I did this crowdfunding webinar, an actual webinar, and I recorded the entire process. I recorded me doing the research. I recorded me I put the actual webinar, I think, every stage of the process is recorded, so you can actually track it. So those videos take some time to download, which is why you want to give that a few minutes. And again, great ideas, practices. I appreciate that, Alan. Thank you. We'll be able to send the text directly from Active Campaign if we are done for your customer. Yeah, you can. Yes, you can. If you're an Ultimate customer or you have the campaigns product, the SMS campaigns are already set up in Active Campaign, and then all you have to do is trigger them by getting an opt-in, by getting somebody that says, yes, I want to get text messages from you. And if so, you can trigger both a campaign for your clients after they enroll and one for prospects as well. And again, you don't have to just do that. I mean, you could design your own as well. I'm just saying that that is one of the things that comes with our campaigns product. It's worked so well for us that when we recorded the second batch of retention for our clients, we made them all white label from the beginning. We designed them to be used by you and us. And then when we built our campaigns product, we're going to add those into that product as well. So the videos, are on YouTube, and the actual resources are resources. The videos are in the folder that you go. If you go to creditsuite.com/resources and click right here, the videos that will map you through the process are in the folder you'll download, which is why it'll take you a few minutes to download. Will you remind us of which state has a PowerPoint to download to present to a prospect? That I would go into the seminar section of your back office. If you go into partner resources, and then you look at like seminar, there's one that says seminar, that has the PowerPoint to do that. I honestly don't know which of these has the presentation. You'd have to track that back. You got to go to a Suite login, look at live coaching webinars, find the day we did that topic that you're talking about, and then you'd have to find it. Alan, I really do not know. I really do not remember all those, but it shouldn't be too difficult to link together. All you got to do is just open up Suite login right here, and then find the webinar that you're talking about, find the date, and then once you do that, you can find the one to download, and that should give you information from there. And I do agree, it's probably a good idea for us to put descriptions here. The problem is that I literally sent this to our development team to put up here on the website about 2 hours ago. So I just oftentimes don't get my resources ready that I want to send till right before the webinar, which is why I don't have time for them to put up detailed descriptions. Okay, guys, I'm going to wrap this up. Thank you all very much for tuning in. You know how to get the resources that'll even walk you more in depth into this process. And this is what we're doing next week. Next week, we're going to master YouTube. I'm going to teach you exactly what you need to do to master and dominate YouTube using the content that I've now helped teach you to be able to create. So I look forward to seeing you next Tuesday at 3 o'clock Eastern, right here on our weekly coaching webinar. Thanks, everybody. Have a great day.